I truly believe that UIs can either make or break a game, and Project Zomboid's no exception. I love Project Zomboid. It's a very fun UI. However, it feels very archaic and not very user friendly. The reason why I'm able to play with it and kind of really enjoy it is because I kind of grew up with games as they evolved the UI over time. So I'm very tolerant of the kind of UIs we have. But I know a lot of my friends who are just like graphics, but for UIs, if it's not user friendly, if it's clunky, they have to do a lot of extra steps. They just don't want to play the game. It ruins it for them.
I do agree. The UI can, in fact, make or break a game, especially in a game that is as complicated as Project Zomboid. There's so much to do in Project Zomboid. So if your UI isn't top notch, or at least isn't improving as you're going, because Project Zomboid is still being worked on actively, build 42. If it's not improving as it's going, it's going to be very hard to get newer people that are looking for like a casual game kind of sucked into that. There was a lot of stuff about Project Zomboid when you guys first got me playing it that I avoided because of Build 41's UI and how cluttered and complicated it was and how just overwhelming it was to try to look at that and figure out what am I going to build next? What am I going to do?
Yeah, and I think Build 42 took that to like another god tier level of how to approach all this stuff, and not like in a good way, in a way more cluttered, confusing, distracted way. And I found a video by Mr. Atomic Duck. And in this video, he was talking about, I think it was like 3 months ago, by the way, he was talking about how one of the modding guys he's friends with or knows had created a new UI for Project Zomboid. And I just thought about the other day, and I told you about these mods. Some of them being the clean a hotbar, the clean UI, new building, new crafting, cook, project cook, and etc. But when I use these mods that Mr. Atomic Duck pointed me to that are made by the Arthur Rocco, I actually started to enjoy the crafting process and all the complexity it had in it. What did you think about it?
Well, first of all, I think the Build 42 UI is a big improvement to me over Build 41 for sure. Is it perfect? No, it still needs some work. There's still some features that could be adjusted. That this mod actually does add in, or some of these mods actually add in, that I think Build 42 could definitely benefit from. One of the things that I really liked about the mods that we tried out was there's a couple of extra sorting options that standard Project Zomboid doesn't have that this mod adds in. Now, for instance, with Project Zomboid, I think the only sorting option is like by encumbrance or weight. I know the mod at least gives you like A to Z sorting, so you can sort it that way and search through it that way. Project Zomboid that I know of that I could find doesn't give you that option. And that was helpful to me. There is a search bar, so maybe you don't want to sort A to Z. Maybe that doesn't help you. There's a search bar in both the mod and Build 42, but certain things I was looking for, I liked the A to Z sorting.
Project Zomboid by itself allows you to sort by category or by name, but not by weight, I do believe. So yeah, you're right. The search bar really helped, and it helped when you're going through multiple inventories at once. I didn't have to type it in every single time or scroll down to it every single time. It did kind of work out pretty well. I found using these mods that create these better UIs to be so much more user friendly and quality of life that I went from barely knowing how to do any of these like blacksmithing and masonry and all this stuff to now having myself a simple forge, a simple smelter. I've been able to create the press, which you can use to press molds out of clay and create, and you can fire it in a kiln. Like all within like a couple of hours of just using these mods.
It definitely makes it more user friendly. It makes it a lot easier to look through, a lot easier to understand. I'm not 100% sold on some of the visuals of the mods. I told you before, it feels softer. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's kind of the first word that popped in my head. Project Zomboid's kind of all squared off and like sharp corners, and the mods are kind of all like rounded, a little more friendly, I guess, a little softer, which is not an issue. One thing I did really at first hate about the mods that we installed were all of the status effects that popped up on one side of the screen. On your right side, you normally have the status effects that pop up, when you're tired or you're panicking or anything like that. All of those with the mods pop up on the left side of the screen immediately. And they were very distracting and very off putting at first until I realized I could hide them. I could move them around anywhere I wanted. I could hide them. I could change them to bars because they give you some of them are like meters. Like your tiredness will go up or down. Your food will go up and down, things like that. You can change those to just bars. You can even change the colors. You can pick which ones to hide. You can hide them all. Once I realized I could customize those things, my outlook on the entire mod changed.
Some of the stuff I enjoyed about these mods was that when I opened up the crafting menu, it was very clean and it was very precise what did what. The icons all matched up, and when you hovered over them, all of these little sidebars popped out telling you the name of everything. And I know that Project Zomboid and some of the recent updates for Build 42 introduced the ability to right click and search for the item either being used or crafted with. And this UI kind of showed that a little bit more. I would have to say the only thing I didn't like about this UI when it comes to the crafting and the building was that sometimes when you right clicked on something and searched, it took the entire name of it, which made it hyper focused for one item, but it wouldn't show anything because the crafting recipes in Project Zomboid don't only focus on that one particular item's name, they focus on kind of the generic thing for that. So sometimes I had a little bit of trouble with that, but majority of the time, when it came to crafting, I was able to use those tabs that showed the proper icons, told me the names, and that's how I was able to jump so far ahead in my tech. The just ease of ability to see where the recipes are, what I need to do, and then the final cherry on the top, I think, for the crafting and building UI mod, if you pushed a favorite on any of those buildable items or on a item you can craft, it would show inside of the container you're looking through hearts next to the items that it wants to use. And I thought that was amazing because it made picking through all of these storage containers way, way less, probably grindy.
The one thing I will add to what you were saying, with you saying like specific things would kind of throw off the search function, that's where I like that A to Z sort feature, because to me it made it a little bit easier to find stuff in there. And again, I know there's a search bar. If you know exactly what the item's called, you can just type it in the search bar and find it that way. We run into this with other games. This was one of the things I talked to you a lot about for DayZ, was how sometimes things get named weird. And there may not be a lot of that in Project Zomboid, but you still run into that here and there. You might call one thing a specific name, and the developers of the game might call it something slightly different, and it takes you a minute to find those things. The search bar, the sorting, the categories, all of that, even the searching, like you said, the searching for a specific item that's used in a recipe, all makes it so much easier. Crafting easier, looting easier, going through your storage systems are so much easier. All of it.
And one of the other mods that are part of this Rocco's workshop for Build 42 was called Project Cook and Project Cook Pixel Pack. I have always struggled in Project Zomboid to do any kind of decent cooking or understand cooking at all. And the reason for this is because there are thousands of possible recipes because this item can go into these 5 recipes. This and then, but if you put in bell peppers, it can't go in, and etc. etc. This was a really cool icon next to the crafting menu you can push, and it popped up a crafting menu for cooking. You first choose like a pan, a cooking pot, whatever you're going to be using to start cooking with. And then you can choose to add things to it from the right hand side, and you can chop them up. And then it will show you the other items you can add in. And then below that, it showed seasonings. It showed you, using salt, pepper, cumin, paprika, whatever else, like dill. And it really was cool because it would show you how many stars that meal was going to give you. And if you put in the wrong thing, it took it down stars. But it was absolutely mind opening to me. This is how the cooking system should work. Because I've been opening up chili cans and stuff like that, putting in the saucepan and just cooking it, maybe pretending like I added a little bit of salt, or I put a bunch of radishes in something and I think it's good, but it's not.
My favorite thing to make in Project Zomboid is a peanut butter sandwich or a jelly sandwich because that's pretty much the only thing I know how to cook in the game. So yeah, that's pretty much me. But I would love that aspect of being able to just throw a meal together and it benefits you more or takes your hunger down more or gives you more energy or whatever the effect is, based on how well the ingredients can go together instead of just having set ingredients that you can put together. There's a bunch of games out there that does it, and what you were describing brings to mind the newer Zelda games, Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, because you can just throw random stuff together, and sometimes you get a great recipe that's really helpful, gives you a bunch of extra benefits, and sometimes you literally get a plate of food that's called dubious food that they blur out with censorship because it's such a bad meal, and it gives you like a half a heart maybe. So it would be really cool to see that in actual Project Zomboid.
I immediately feel like there is a translation to that in Project Zomboid, and it's the boredom to stress, unhappiness level. And if you actually look at some of the food, if you eat it raw, you're going to become unhappy or bored or even depressed. So I think that's where that like version of it would come in. You know, that dubious food from Link in Project Zomboid actually makes you go, I need to go pop a couple, whatever, to feel happy again. There was one last mod that I got from Rocco that I absolutely enjoyed, and it was the shortcut. I hid this away, or I didn't use it properly, or somehow it got deleted, but it allowed you to add items from your inventory to another shortcut just above your hotbar. And what's cool about this is you could put in your panic stuff in there, and when you clicked it, your character would immediately take care of it, right? So, like, I always found that to be kind of interesting that you had to open your inventory, or right click on the thing to make you feel less panicked. And then by then, there's already a zombie coming in for a good crunch on you.
I feel kind of dumb about this one because when I installed all these mods and I booted everything up, I said I got overwhelmed by the status symbols. But one of the first things I noticed too was that extra section of square blocks above your hotbar. And I immediately was like, I wonder what that is. I'll figure it out later. Didn't mess with it for a long time until like my last day of testing these mods and playing. I was like, I need to figure out what this is for. And for a little while, I couldn't figure it out. And then I figured out you could just drag and drop stuff onto that bar and then just click it to use it. And that blew my mind. I started putting my food there immediately. It made it so much easier to eat. Like you said, certain medicines I used to put there, bandages I was able to put there, like survival stuff was put there. It makes sense in Project Zomboid when you have something in your backpack to have to go through, scroll through, click on it. Your guy makes the makes the sound of unzipping a bag and digging it through, pulling it out. That makes sense. But some of those things you would have in your pockets ready to go because they're necessary items that you're going to need quickly. So they should be able to be accessed very quickly and very easily.
I am very happy that I did stumble upon the video from Mr. Atomic Duck that says my big problem with Build 42, a crucial Project Zomboid discussion, is because I would have never found these otherwise, and I don't think we would have had this pretty damn good talk about it. And I do believe, I still hold true to this, that a UI can either make or break a game. And I feel kind of bad now because I don't know if I want to play Zomboid without these mods. Because I was able to accomplish so much and I felt like I was achieving something.
Who knows? We're still getting updates for build 42. We're still changing. We're getting improvements. Maybe I don't think that they'll go as far as this mod goes, but maybe we'll get some improvements. Maybe they'll take some notes from something like this and we'll see some of these features that we enjoy and that we like come to build 42 later on down the road. That's obviously just speculation. I'm just throwing that out there, but maybe.
Smash that like button and don't forget to subscribe.